Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the meeting of the Richmond City Council for Tuesday, October the 14th, 2025 to order. May I have a motion on the minutes? Discussion, all those in favor, post carried. Madam Clerk, any agenda additions or deletions?
None, your worship.
All right, may I have a motion to resolve in a committee of the whole to hear delegations on items on the agenda? All those in favor, post carried. There is one set of delegations that pre-registered, so we'll call upon them first. Bruce French and Bruce Mathers. Are they here? Come on forward, gentlemen. So if you could introduce yourselves. You've already told us that you're on the Sandstorm Farm number 15 item. But if you could introduce yourself, and you've got 5 minutes.
Okay, my name is Brian French. I'm an agrologist, and I'm being retained by Sandstorm Farms to prepare the application before you. And
My name is Bruce Mathers. I'm the part owner of Sandstorm Farms and E. Mathers Bulldozing.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing us to speak today, and councilors. Sandstorm Farms and Mathers Bulldozing are a family business which has been operating in Richmond since 1909. Mathers supplies clean sand to the community, essential for preloads, road construction, and farmers. Approximately 25% is sold to farmers, and GFL Environmental is one of their largest clients. And as you know, GFL looks after all of Richmond's green waste. And it's certainly the fact that they can get reasonably priced sand close to their operation is a major benefit for them and manages them to keep their prices reasonable. The Fraser River main arm shipping channel near the Massey Tunnel is maintained by the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority and involves regular dredging to ensure the safe passage of marine traffic. Mr. Tom Corsi from the Port Authority has confirmed in a letter that the Mathers site is an important link in the dredging program. Mathers Eco-Waste site accepts a significant volume of dredged sand, and we have canvassed the foreshore of Richmond and determined that there is no other suitable site to replace the current Mathers Eco-Waste site except the Sandstorm site. There was considerable discussion at the Planning Committee meeting regarding the clearing of trees on the eastern 5 hectares of the property. The common theme was that this site was a pristine, environmentally sensitive area destroyed by Sandstorm. In fact, these trees were diseased and dying, invasive European birch trees infested with the bronze birch borer, a serious risk to native birch trees in Richmond. As I'm sure you know, a lot of your parks have birch trees in them, and it would be sad to see them die. The trees on the Sandstorm site with a pure stand of infected European birch and was a major disease pool for this insect. The clearing was carried out by Sandstorm as responsible citizens on the advice of a well-respected Richmond-based arborist who identified the risk to native trees and the risk from falling limbs and trees to life and property. The Sandstorm site has serious limitations for crop farming, and the farmer leasing the land from Sandstorm suffers major crop losses every year from flooding. This year, he lost 25% of his spring vegetable crop. The cleared eastern 5 acres was intended for cultivation, but when the farmer tried to grow vegetables, he found that the site was very infertile and combined with a persistent flooding was not suitable for growing vegetable crops. The Sandstorm property is the end of the municipal drainage system with very limited invert and drainage potential, which results in persistent high water tables and flooding. It also receives runoff from properties to the north and east. The truck parking proposal is in response to Sandstorm's understanding that there is a serious lack of legal commercial truck parking space in Richmond, resulting in illegal truck parking occurring on ALR land. So sand store site is ideally located for truck parking because it has a heavily used truck route, has few residential neighbors, is centrally located and close to major highways. It would handle about 130 trucks. Most trucks are used during the day and are parked overnight, so they would normally travel in and out on Triangle Road at low P traffic times, thus not adding to the traffic density. Sandstore is offering the use of this land to the city, who could lease it to an operator for $1 per year and the payment of taxes to help alleviate the current pressure on ALR land. The sand storage and truck parking uses would be for a 25-year period, remain in the ALR and be reclaimed to Class 2 agricultural capability after use. We've done a similar types of reclamation in the Fraser Valley and found that it's been very successful. Sandstore could not find any land in Richmond currently out of the ALR and financially feasible, which could be offered for inclusion in the ALR. As an alternative, Sandstore is offering to include 12.2 hectares of actively farmed land in Desroches into the ALR.
Sir.
This land has 8.3 hectares of Class 1 to 3 capability land and 3.9 hectares of Class 4 to 7 buffer land.
Sir,
Sandstore believes...
You're out of time now.
Sorry, thank you.
Could you just finish up?
Yes. We hope that Richmond Council can appreciate the benefits these temporary non-farm uses will provide to the city of Richmond by maintaining an important source of clean sand for construction, infrastructure, and farmers, and helping to alleviate the truck parking activity in the ALR. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Glanders, you've got a question of these delegates? All right.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you so much for your presentation. It's good to hear directly from you. I think it helps everybody. I just have a quick question about the sulfur and salt content in the soil. It says in the agrologist report that there was high in salt, reactive, and the sulfur would be toxic to many plants, et cetera. But then when it talks about in 25 years with the remediation, layering the compost on top and everything, how does the sulfur and salt get addressed during that remediation process?
No, that's a good question. The peats on this particular property are very high in sulfur and very high in salts. And so the proposal is to basically leave the peat in place after the material, the truck parking and or the sand storage is in place. There will be a considerable amount of preload from that, so the peat will sink. So we will build that up with 1 to 2, probably 2 meters of sand to bring it up to a good level so there's drainage, and then incorporate the peat into the compost into it. So the salt will be so far down that it will now not be a problem.
Okay. So then in theory, that could be done now, but it's just cost prohibitive?
Yes.
Okay. Just another question. Were you involved in the application in 2018 as well?
Well, it's similar.
Yeah, I just want to know, is it the same area in this application exactly that's being proposed for the sand storage that was proposed in 2018?
Yes, for the sand storage.
For the sand part?
Exactly the same. The truck parking is the additional area that was originally not going to be in part of the application.
Okay, and then we, at the planning meeting last week, staff has asked a number of questions like, how could the ALC possibly come back with this? Would they say parts that they like or approve or don't approve? And then what would be the steps for you if it didn't pass at council tonight as proposed? And I was wondering if, like a number of comments were made that the truck parking is possibly going to be a detriment to the application at the ALC level, whereas the sand would be a lot more benign of a use. So if it doesn't pass at council tonight, would you consider resubmitting the application with just the sand storage?
No, the commission has a lot of latitude in how they handle an application. And certainly, I know a lot of concern was raised about the sand storage maybe being a reasonable use and the truck parking not being. So The commission, and I've been dealing with these for almost 45 years with the commission. I used to work for them. They have a lot of latitude. They can make many decisions. They can allow one thing. They can allow it with conditions. They can give part of an application and not part of something else. So that they generally don't feel that that's something that really bothers them. If they like it, they approve it. If they don't, they take it out. So I don't see it as being something that commission's going to throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak.
All right.
Thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I had a question about the Port of Vancouver letter that was dated in April 26, 2019, so it's about 5 years old. It doesn't mention the truck parking because that wasn't part of the application back then. Have you had any discussions with them about their opinion about whether or not truck parking would be detrimental or positive?
Oh, he's asking about Tom
Sorry?
Corsi.
So the Port of Vancouver letter is from 2019.
Yeah.
And at that time, you weren't proposing truck parking. So have you since then had a discussion with them whether or not the truck parking would be a pro or a con in this application?
No, I haven't talked to them about the application of the truck parking.
Okay. And the other question I had was the 30 acres in Desroches lands in Chilliwack. Now, it's already been applied to become part of the ALR, right?
Yes.
If this does not go through, will you withdraw that application or could let it go through?
No, I do quite a number of these types of applications, and the commission's well aware that that they're tied together. And if the commission approves it, they can approve the inclusion, but it's up to the applicant to decide if they want to go through with that. So there's no obligation on us to proceed with that. If the application for either one or part of Mather's application is refused, then we would not go forward with that inclusion. We have other properties that could possibly be used as part of the inclusion.
So you'll hold back that 30 acres?
So
And,
at our discretion.
yeah, so if this doesn't go through, then you'll try to, use that as a carrot for the ALC for another project?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other parties who wish to speak to us tonight on matters that are on the agenda? Anyone else? All right. May I have a motion to rise and report? All those in favor, opposed, carried. That brings us to the consent agenda. We've got a number of items on the consent agenda. We have the receipt of the committee minutes, the amendments to the consolidated five-year financial plan for 2025 to 2029, consolidated fees bylaw number 8636 and the amendment bylaw, the permissive property tax exemption 2026 bylaw, and referral response for the Finance and Audit Committee, the appointment of approving officer, and the housing agreement amendment application for 7811 Alderbridge Way. May I have a motion to adopt those by general consent? Moved and seconded. Okay, so we're now on the consent agenda. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. I wanted to speak to a couple of items on the agenda. Number 9 is the permissive property tax exemption. And what that does is it lowers the property taxes for religious and other institutions in the city of Richmond. Part of this report takes away that tax exemption from the India Cultural Center and the Shia Muslim Mosque. The reason is they have unpermitted buildings in the back that they weren't allowed to build. They also have playing fields, playgrounds, and gravel. It's ALR land, and with those added changes, especially without permission, it's simply, we cannot give them the tax exemption. So what is it going to cost them? In the end, about $3,000 for each temple. So it's not a humongous, and when you consider the size of these establishments, a cost. But I am hopeful that they will work with our staff, they will remove those structures, that they will remove the gravel and farm it just like everybody else does on the highway to heaven. The next one is number 10. It's a referral response to the Finance and Audit Committee. For a long, long time, the Finance Committee was just that, Finance Committee. And but with the changes that we've seen with the gift card scandal, Council decided we needed to up the ante on the Finance Committee and include it as an audit as well, because we were unaware of some of the things that were going on, and we're now learning more and more about those gift cards, and it's not good. And it can't happen again. Now, thank goodness we've made some major changes to stop that from ever happening again. But by changing the focus and the direction of the Finance and Audit Committee changes the way we will get reporting. And I think it'll be a much better issue in the end. That was it. That was all I wanted to speak to. Thank you.
Councillor McNulty.
Thanks very much, Your Worship, for supporting everything on there. I do have a question to staff, actually, on the amendments to the 5-year financial plan. We've got a potpourri of things that we've approved over the last while, and it doesn't increase the operating or utility or capital budget because the things where they. What about the? It says there's no tax impact for any of these amendments at the moment. What about the operating for next year and possibly a tax for 2026? Will there be implications for tax increase at that time on any of these?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, no, there's no ongoing tax impact. These are just one-time impacts to the 2025 budget.
Okay, and when will we start dealing with the budgetary process for next year for 2026?
Staff are currently in the process of planning for the 2026 budget, and we plan to bring this to the Finance and Audit Committee in December.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, so with that, we'll call the question on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. There are three items that have been taken off the consent agenda. The first one is the Steveston Highway Multi-Use Pathway Project and the next steps. The recommendation is that option 1 to amend the scope and budget of the Steveston Multi-Use Pathway Phase 3 project to include construction of Phase 4 with no additional city funding as described in the city staff report be approved. That a submission to TransLink for funding as part of the 2020-26 cost share program for Steveston Multi-Use Pathway Phase 3 and 4 be endorsed, and that the consolidated 5-year financial plan be amended accordingly, and I would so move.
Second.
So it's moved and seconded. Very simply, we've gone through a process with the Steveston Multi-Use Pathway, and there has been admittedly some controversy over it. But it's in phases. And so the phases that have been built so far are from Railway on the west to Shell Road on the east. During the course of construction for those phases, $4.8 million has been saved, so it's come in under budget by that amount. And we also received a $1.4 million grant that we hadn't factored in. And the idea is to take that money and apply for more grant money, basically from TransLink, and go construct the multi-use pathway from Shell Road to Ironwood and a little past number 5 road, so that it will, when we have a new tunnel, we'll be able to connect to the active transportation corridor on the tunnel. From my point of view, I think that we have to build the multi-use pathway for now, but we also, more importantly, are building it for the future because it will be something used in increasing numbers over the years, and particularly once we get that tunnel built. So I think given how we've been efficient in building so far, I think we should take that money and take the grant that we expect to receive and build this final leg, which will make the whole pathway far more useful when it goes right from Railway right to the Ironwood Shopping Centre. So with that, we'll go to Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. I'm going to ask that we separate option 1 or phase 4 from the option 5, which was added on in committee, which includes the east side of Highway 99 all the way to the Entertainment Boulevard. They're two entirely separate issues, and while I 100% support creating a usable bike path for pedestrians and cyclists between Highway 99 and Riverport, I do not support option 1 or phase 4 because we don't even know where the tunnel's going to come out. We don't know exactly how we're going to be connecting, so it's premature to me to build this phase 4 or option 1, and that's why I'm asking that it be separated.
We're not going to be doing that unless you can explain to me when you look to council page 180 and it's phase 4 goes basically just a little past number 5 road. I don't see where phase 5 comes in at all.
It's a referral.
That's true, it is a referral. But I also feel that going to phase 4 doesn't, in my mind, make any sense. And we haven't even finished the overpass at Stevenson Highway yet. And staff say they don't know exactly where the tunnel's going to come out. For all we know, it'll be hooking up to Rice Mill Road. So I think it's premature to build phase 4. But the referral, and Councillor Galander has corrected me, we did make a referral to look into phase 5, which would go from Highway 99 to the Riverport area. So.
All right, Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple of questions for staff. I know we talked about this quite a bit in planning, but hopefully they can answer my question just for clarification. So, Mr. B, when we refer to 181, when we talk about financial update, and you're talking about a total budget for phase 1, 2, and 3, you've got the figure of $17,200,000. Then you've got the allocated city funding, then you have the external funding. So the total is $17,200, and we're just talking about the allocated city funding and the external separately, but we're just referring to the total. Am I correct?
Through the mayor, through your worship, to Councillor Heed, I'm not certain exactly what you mean, but I can explain that the...
Why don't you just tell me what the total funding, I don't care what pot it comes from, is for phase 1, 2, and 3 of the Stevenson multi-use pathway?
Through your worship, to Councillor Heed, the total that we were permitted to spend is $17.2 million.
$17.2 million. And we saved 4.1 or 4.8?
Through your worship, Councillor Heed, that is correct.
Correct. Now, how much is phase 4 going to cost us total?
Through your worship, to Councillor Heed, $6.2 million.
So 6.2 million. So that's in addition to the 4.8 that we've saved, in addition to the 1.4 million grant.
Through your worship, to Councillor Heed, that's correct.
So what is the total?
Through your worship, Councillor Heed, if I'm interpreting you correctly, as I mentioned previously, that the on top of that money, we also received a $1.4 million grant from TransLink that's not factored into that. When we add that in, we get up to the 6.2.
Okay, so total costs from going from phase 3 and doing phase 4, total costs, I don't care what bucket it comes from, is 6 point some odd million.
Through Councillor Heed, the additional phase that gets us from Shell Road to the Stevenson Interchange is 6.2.
From a TransLink, from the saving and additional money we would have to contribute, is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, I don't know if there's any additional money. What we have is allocated money that council has allocated towards the project, and we have grant money that has come to us for the project, and that money totals up to enough to do this final phase.
And if we don't do this phase 4, what happens with that money?
Through your worship, Councillor Heed, well, it depends. So when we look at the grant money, because we have $1.2 million worth of grant money that would go unspent, there's some opportunity to maybe put it somewhere else. We don't have other places to necessarily use it all, and there's no guarantee that we would actually be able to do that. It was as the city's contribution, which I believe is 3.6. That's largely DCCs. Only $200,000 of that is from general revenue. The rest would go back to the DCC pot.
And certainly we can find something to do with that money here. So 17.2, take away 4.8 that we saved, then add on 6 million, so we're down 13 million. So we're about 20 million. This multi-use pathway is costing us, the taxpayer, 20 million.
Through your worship, Councillor Heed, no, I don't believe that that's true.
Well, 17, you said 1, 2, and 3 was $17,200,000. Then you said we saved 4.8. Correct? So now we're down to, let's just round it off, we're down to about 13 million. And then you're saying this additional one's going to cost us just over 6 million. Am I not close to 20 million?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, maybe a different way to look at it is it's actually 17.2 plus the 1.4 in additional grant money.
Doesn't make any sense to me. It absolutely does not make any sense. You know, we've spent enough taxpayer money on this Stevenson multi-use pathway. We're throwing more money at it, and there's so much that's needed here in Richmond that we can benefit from. I'm sorry, Mayor, I can't support this.
In terms of the expenditure, you're saying that we had 17.2 million, and that was for phases 1, 2, 3. But because of savings, we can make out phases 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we just need that extra grant money that you've talked about, and that's the total bill.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Mayor. At the end of the day, the additional grant money, which we already have and is allocated towards the program, with that we can do it. And then additionally, we believe we can get another $2 million from TransLink towards this project. That will mean that we could put another $2 million back into our own DCCs.
Okay, Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. I think stopping the bike lane prematurely, I think it would be called a boondoggle. We've just opened up 1.5 million square feet of warehouse space in the Portlands. Eventually, we're going to get the road through and people are going to be able to take bikes to work and get to work. The entertainment area, where Water Mania is and those places, we've just approved a large project that's coming there. It's going to need workers. It's going to have people going there to work, to do things. I look around this room and there's people in here whose kids play hockey, whose kids swim, and whose kids will be working at those places. And they're going to want those kids to be able to get there on a bike lane, a safe bike lane. They're not going to want their kids on the road with the trucks, and they're not going to want them on the sidewalk with all the people who aren't expecting. So we have to widen the path so it's a multi-use path so everyone can get to work and get where they need to go. They can get to the pool, they can go to the movies. The overpass is going to happen this winter. It'd be ridiculous to start talking about, we just sent a referral off to deal with bike lane on the east side of the freeway. So to leave this hole in the middle of it would be completely ridiculous. We want people to get around, particularly our kids, and particularly anybody on a smaller mobility device, whether it be a scooter, a bicycle, an e-bike, or grandma's scooter getting to the grocery store. We want those people to arrive safely and to enjoy their time. We're also going to eventually be moving the library at Ironwood, and it's going to be moving a little ways. And there's also the ability then for people to go along Stevenson Highway and up 5 Road to all the different temples and other places. There's a nice sidewalk for quite a bit of the way up that way too. We want people to move around Richmond. This is a good project. I'm glad we've done it. I love seeing people on it, and I hope to see more people on it.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yeah, I agree with the comments from Councillor Liu and kind of took the words out of my mouth there. You know, it's this pathway ends at Shell Road. People want to be able to get all the way to Ironwood. I see people with groceries and scooter carts every day on this path. We've got figures that it's being used. We were able to get a lot of TransLink funding. We did the rest out of DCCs, and the plan was always to connect it to the tunnel. Some comments were brought up at committee about construction fatigue and ensuring that we're not going to be doing this at the same time as the overpass construction, and we've been told that the overpass will be completed very soon. This is just going to go into design phase and whatnot, and it's going to be staggered, so it's not going to be interfering with that. And as far as the comments about not knowing where it's going to connect to the tunnel, we've been given some presentations from the MOTT about the tunnel. What we do know is that the east side of that overpass is where the entrance is going to be. We don't know exactly how it's going to line up, but it is going to be there. So it makes sense to get this going now so that it's going to be there and ready to connect. I did have one question, staff, so I'm glad you're still sitting there. Will there, it seems like I mean, I wasn't really thinking about the cost before Councillor Heed made his comments, but if you're looking at the size of it and then the 6 million, I'm assuming that some of that budget is going to be held back for actually finishing the connection into the tunnel once it's done, right? It's not just for the path, or can you confirm?
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, what we see right now is that will connect it to the Steveston overpass. The Steveston overpass will have a connection to the tunnel on the east side, so in that way it will be connected to the tunnel.
Oh, and MOTT pays for that part of it.
Through your worship to Councillor Glanders, that's correct.
Fair enough. And no, and if you read the report, it was great to see how much money we did save, the 4.8 million, based on some utilities surprises that we found along the way during construction, that we're able to save a lot of money and put it towards this next phase. So I'm looking forward to completing that. Thank you. I'm definitely in favor.
Councillor Day, you've already spoken.
Before you moved on to the next speaker. So I asked you, Mr. B, at committee, what about the brand new sidewalk that just got poured on the east side of number 5 road that is eventually going to connect up to the overpass? And you didn't seem to know that that was already poured. Like, obviously, that's not a multi-use pathway, so was all
Let's
that.
get an answer.
Through worship to Councillor Day, no, sorry, I have not had a chance to go out and try and figure out what you're speaking to. I'm not aware of new sidewalk. I do know that MOTT is through the Steveston interchange project building a lot of things out there. I don't know if there's some concrete or something that you're thinking about, but I do know that all of the work they're doing is with the MUP in mind. Like, they are constructing bike lanes and sidewalks and things for bikes and pedestrians through the overpass project, and the connections I understand are all suitable for all of these devices, but I can find out from them if that's exactly true.
The referral that we made at GP, which was to look at Phase 5, connecting the highway to the Riverport area. When will you be able to bring that report back?
Through worship to Councillor Day, not too quickly. I think that there's a lot involved in that report. I think at the end of the day, there's also a connection to be looked at as part of that to the east, to the port facilities, with the widening of the roadway and things. And I think my goal would be to show all of the work that we might need to do over the next 20 years, and then bring council options on how to proceed.
20 years, wow. Last question, if the city went ahead and tore the street apart and put in the multi-use pathway from Shell to number 5 road, that would mean narrowing of all those vehicular lanes from, I think it's 3.5 to 3.25 meters, is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, that's what's planned right now, and they would be the same width as the lanes to the east of it on Steveston Highway.
Okie dokie, thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair. Thanks for the report. I'm not sure I have a question, but I will make a comment on it. I mean, it is an incredibly expensive project. I do agree with that, and it's sometimes hard to comprehend from a layperson's point of view why it is that expensive, but it seems to be the way construction is right now. The highway connection that we're talking about with this phase And I didn't support this concept when we first discussed it, but it did pass, and so it is built there. And the connection from Shell Road, my understanding is that it will go to Highway 99, where essentially the bus loop is, and that the construction of this phase will take place largely, if not entirely, after the overpass construction is finished, and that the tunnel construction, that's going to be going on into the mid-2030s, I believe. So that's rhetorical, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Through your worship to Councillor Hobbs, I can help you with the timeline a little bit. Yes, you're correct that we won't be building this until the Steveston interchange is complete. That should be complete by the end of this November, so there's no way we'll start before then. As far as the tunnel goes, their schedule is to be complete the tunnel by 2030. So they'll be building that over the next 5 years. I'm not positive exactly when they'll start breaking ground and digging and making the segments, but they're committed to finishing by 2030.
Sure, okay, thanks for that. So, I was the one that brought up the issue of construction fatigue in the meeting. I think that's a real thing, not just in this location, but in a lot of parts of Richmond. But I've reconciled myself with that because the concern I would have is that now that we have gone ahead and built the MUP all the way to Shell, that if we leave this phase undone, that to me is like building an MUP to nowhere, and I don't think that's a good thing. So I think connecting it to Highway 99 makes sense. We'll see what the referral comes up with in terms of going further eastward, but I don't think it's necessarily the best idea to leave it unfinished now. It is expensive, but we do have grant money on the table. We've got budget that we've allocated for that, and if we don't spend it, I understand it goes back to DCCs and would be used for something, but I just don't see the merit in leaving it unfinished at Shell when logically we're going to connect it to the bus loop. So, thanks. I'll be supporting it.
Yeah, Your Worship, I think this is a very good idea that we extend the project to phase 4. I think first of all, I would like to commend staff for being able to complete phases 1, 2, and 3 with $4.8 million saved. I think this is a good example that we can always do things better. And I hope that this can set an example for other projects in the future. And secondly, I think conceptually, we always want to have this multi-purpose pathway from railway all the way up to the tunnel, right? And to stop right now at the end of the phase 3 and without connecting it further, I think this is something silly. Because I think more than 2/3 of this concept has already been completed. So and also knowing that there's very great likelihood that we can connect this to the tunnel and the other things in the future. So I think we should go on to complete the whole thing. And I'm also concerned about the cost. If we do not do it now, and if we at the end 3 years later from now we decided to extend it to the phase 4, the cost would be much more than what we have today. So I'd rather see this project be completed sooner than later. And with all those reasons, I will support this motion.
All right, Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'll be brief. You mentioned that our city money, the $3.6 million, came from DCCs. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, that's largely correct. With the DCCs, we do have an assist factor, and that's about $200,000 of that 3.6 came from general revenue.
How did those DCCs arrive? Where did the money come from those DCCs? And what is the use of that DCC account?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, the DCCs come from development to support trunk infrastructure and things that are related to growth within the city.
So how much is in that fund? Do we know at the moment? Just out of curiosity.
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, I'm not certain. I can guess at what there might be in the roads DCCs, but the DCC program is much bigger than the roads DCCs.
Oh, you mentioned road DCCs. So there's road DCCs, and I assume there's building DCCs, which are separate accounts.
And through your worship to Councillor McNulty, and there's utilities and et cetera.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor McNulty, Roads DC currently has a balance of $44 million uncommitted.
Okay, so that's sitting there just waiting to be used wherever we might see. It'd be interesting when you say city, nowhere did I see the 3.6 say it was from DCCs. And I guess then my question, if we get, we have a grant of $1 million, and if we get 2 more million from, we can put it back into our DCC account then from whence we took the money from, correct?
Through your worship, Councillor McNulty, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, we're going to call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried with Councillors Heed and Day opposed. Brings us to number 14, which is the 2026 Council and Committee meeting schedule. The General Purposes Committee recommended, first of all, that the 2026 Council and Committee meeting schedule is outlined on attachment 2 of the staff report be approved, and that the council procedure bylaw be varied to allow the following revisions as detailed in the report, and we'll approve them. First of all, that the regular council meetings open and closed of August 12th and 26th, 2026 be canceled, and that the August 18th, 2026 public hearing be rescheduled to September 8th at 5:30 in the council chambers at Richmond City Hall, and I would so move. So what this is in a nutshell is 2 options for our meetings next year. Option 2, which is the recommended option, would have us, instead of having a break at the end of November because it's a 5th Monday, we would carry on, and the 5th Monday would be General Purposes Committee meeting, and that would, one way or the other, enable us to finish the council meetings by December 16th, thereby giving both council and staff a longer period off at Christmas, over the Christmas period. And the option 1, which is the alternative, would have us taking that 5th Monday in November, but not finishing the meetings until just before Christmas on December 23rd. So other than that, we have the usual changes in the meeting schedules to take away the meetings in August and the consequent result with the public hearing. So I'll be supporting of this. Councillor Day.
Yeah, I voted against this in GP because I don't, at the end of the year, I've been here 12 years.
Sorry.
There's always a rush at the end of the year to get all the grants in, applications in, and all the people who have applied for building loans and permits. So there's so many rezonings. Everything happens that last 2 weeks. So to me, it's irresponsible to quit working on December 16th. I would rather see us go through till December 23rd so we can clean up all those last minute applications and get it done. And I mean, keep in mind, we get all of August off. So I don't think we need to take half of December off as well. So I would not vote for option 1 or option 2. I would vote for option 1.
That's at some divergence from the rationale we heard at committee. But besides that, I can tell you that we are always ready to have an emergency meeting at any time when the need should arise. And just because City Hall may be closed, there's skeleton staffs. We get the work that needs to be done by the end of the year, we get it done. So I don't think that anything is going to be compromised by this. And it's certainly the way it's been. It's going to be the way it is basically next month, and has traditionally been like that. Councillor Heed.
Yes, just quickly. So I have this correct, Mayor. Yes, council will be on a vacation break, but we are now telling staff they must be on vacation break and use their vacation time. Is that correct?
I'll ask the CAO to comment on that, but as I understand it, our staff, we work with the unions, and there is some of that, but it's not the whole time. So, Ms. Lusk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have the specific dates in front of me, but yes, as has been past practice for many, many years, there are 3 or 4 days over the Christmas break where staff are asked to use vacation or other leave banks to support the time off.
And I guess the point I want to make here is if we can ensure that the CAO is in contact with the unions, so we're certainly abiding by their contractual agreement we have with them.
It has to be worked out with the unions. And there has been a very high level of communication, coordination, and approval. I mean, there's wrinkles to work out, but it's always been doable. And we've been doing this for probably 15, 20 years. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not to beat this thing to death, but by adjusting the schedule, it aligns the Christmas vacation with school vacation. And I think for a lot of parents, if they were trying to find childcare in that week, would be problematic for them. And then they would have the following week off potentially. And so it doesn't actually work for a lot of other people, including our staff. And I think this is a good choice for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we're going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried with Councillor Day opposed, and brings us to the final item that is off the consent agenda is the Sandstorm Farm. We'll go to Councillor McNulty, the Chair of Planning Committee.
Thank you, Worship. The item number 15 that we have is an application by Sandstorm Farms Limited for an agricultural land reserve non-farm use, in bracket sand sale storage and truck parking at 14671 Williams Road. And the Planning Committee recommendation is that the application by Sandstorm Farm Limited for an agricultural reserve non-farm use application for the storage of sand and commercial vehicle truck parking as presented to the Planning Committee be forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission, and I would so move.
Is it seconded? Second. Moved and seconded. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Again, this comes forward, and this is the only site that, and we heard from the delegation and actually learned more about the Agricultural Land Commission and how they operate than I've heard from anybody else. But it's the only site for the storage of sand, and obviously it's a commodity that is used all the time in development within the city of Richmond, and that should be supported. We also heard that one of the sites, the limitation for farming, and the particular site that, the other site that is being presented, being infertile, flooding, high water tables, and we heard about sulfur and salt tonight, which for the first time, and their crops lose 75% of what the yield should be. So our role here is to design on land use and to submit it to the Agricultural Land Commission, who will make the final decision. They brought forward a suggestion to the city by having truck parking, and we are at a crisis from Vancouver all the way up to the Okanagan in terms of truck parking. Every city in every community for the movement of goods and people and in terms of trucking has a problem with truck parking, not just Richmond, but more so in Richmond because the majority of our items are moved to and from everywhere from the airport to the ports in terms of trucking. We have about 5,000 to 6,000 trucks within the city of Richmond, and over 400 of them are semis, which are the big rigs with possibly a trailer on them. They need an area to parking. By allowing parking here, even for 130, we've already gone on to industrial land and also residential parking where we're going to allow them, these huge trucks and smaller trucks, to park on one side of the road, which is going to narrow every road. And we may have to allow them on both sides of the road to get the parking that we want within the city. And this would help in a number of ways. So it helps us address it, but obviously the Land Commission will make the final decision. And it's interesting to hear what they're doing. So I think we should be judging this on its merit, Your Worship, and the land use in Richmond. and also the crisis that we've got. We have two of them. One being able to deal with sand and provide it to our development communities and ourselves as well, and also the issue of parking. So with that, I would leave it, Your Worship, and hope the discussion would leave that we forward this to the Land Commission.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did attend the Planning Committee meeting, spoke. I'll just highlight some of the points that I brought up, and we'll see where the vote goes. First, I'll just point out, and I didn't ask the delegate earlier on purpose, that there's a line on our page 213. It says, Sandstor has been asked by several City Richmond councillors to consider making the western 3.15 hectares available for development of legal commercial truck parking facility. And now I'm not calling people out, I'm not pointing fingers, but I'll say for myself, I am not one of the councillors who asked this company to put truck parking on ALR land. Others can declare for themselves. I really appreciate the City of Richmond staff who have come forward with our report and made the recommendation that this not be forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission. If it were true that there was absolutely no other places to park trucks in Richmond and no other places to do sand operations in Richmond, if that were like complete fact, then perhaps we could consider this. But there are lots of other options. Just in the last month, Council has approved using some of our wide roadways in 3 different areas to put truck parking. We approved getting rid of industrial or agricultural land in North Richmond on River Road for truck parking. We don't need to take the brunt of all of these trucks. They're not necessarily all only going to be operating in Richmond for the 100% of their use. So there really does need to be a more comprehensive strategy in the region with other municipalities. Who's going to organize that conversation? Maybe it could be at Metro Vancouver, but it shouldn't all just fall to Richmond and our most fertile land. This approval, potentially, that councillors across the table here are considering, goes against our existing OCP, very likely our next OCP, against the Farming First strategy that we've adopted, against our industrial land intensification initiative. And staff have pointed this out. It's in our report. It's part of the reasons why they are saying that should City Council deny this application, the application will not be forwarded to the ALC. Perhaps if we were looking at just the value of the sand side of things, we could get that forwarded to the ALC, because there is an agricultural benefit of having access to the sand. It's the truck parking side of it that would go in the place of where existing farming operations occur. And yes, I did hear and agree that it is a challenge to grow vegetables on that property. It was mentioned that this is like the edge of the city irrigation and support system for farmers. Well, maybe that's what we should be addressing tonight, is improving our irrigation systems for agricultural land and supporting farmers and supporting our existing farmland. I'll just point out another thing from Planning Committee that I mentioned. On our page 194, it gives the reason for this development site to supersede the City of Richmond's environmentally sensitive area development permit process. And the reason they did that and have the ability to do it is they used a provincial legislation, the right to farm. But since they cleared the land with the reason of right to farm, there has been no farming, no farm plan, and as we hear with the proposal going forward, no farming proposal till decades down the road. So I'm also very familiar with invasive species. I was teaching students about it today. I'm familiar with the birch trees and the borer insects and all that. But to utilize that as the reason to remove trees, but then not touch anything else and allow invasive species like Himalayan blackberry to grow and cover much of the land as is there now. But thankfully, the peatland is still intact and is still healthy and hasn't been compacted down beyond its ability to recover. So I think the potential for farming is still there. Yes, there'll likely be some amending of soil improvements needed, but that's all possible. We have Kwantlen demonstrating that on the Garden City lands right now. We have a lot of innovations and expertise in the region to help us do that. So that should be the direction we're taking tonight, not sending this to the ALC. Thank you.
What's your point of order?
Councillor Wolf, at the beginning of his little talk there, said the point of order is he accused councillors of being for parking truck on ALR.
I think what he did was quote the report and said that it wasn't him and others can speak for themselves.
But he also mentioned that we can go back and we can check it. He said he's not one of those councillors that's for parking trucks on ALR.
I don't know that this is a point of order, so I'll put you down on the speakers list and we'll come back to you. Councillor Day.
Thank you so much. So I heard loud and clear that there would be 30 acres in Desroches, the Desroches lands in Chilliwack that would be put into the ALR if this goes through. I also heard that it won't go through if this application does not succeed. I feel that we should separate this into two different proposals because I fear, first of all, we need the sand lot, there's no question, and we know that the eco-waste lands are going to be developed into warehouses. There's nothing we can do about that. It's already been approved, but we definitely need this 12.4 acres for the sand lot, and it's a very good location close to the river. We've seen the scrub birch trees for years, and I understand those are gone now. I worry that if we put this together as written right now, that it will fail in the ALC, and then we have to start all over again trying to find a sand lot somewhere else or potentially apply again. And I just want to remind Council that on page 192, staff recommended denying this application for good reason. And we've allowed for a bunch of truck parking on streets. We've got parking permits now. And I feel that if we were to separate this into two votes, we'd probably have enough votes to go forward with the sand lot. And then let's give the truck parking a second look.
We'll go back to Councillor Heed. Go ahead.
I'll go after Councillor. Let Councillor Galanders go. That's fine.
Right.
I'm fine.
Councillor Galanders.
Okay, thanks, Your Worship. I thought Councillor Heed was going to go before me, and I was just worried it wasn't going to be able to get to me, so I put my button on, but whatever order is fine. Yeah, so, I see a lot of merits in the applications as far as I understand why this is coming forward. The sand is very important for farming as well as for the other uses. So I think they said that 25% of the sand goes to cranberry farms. So I know that our cranberry farmers are interested in having, making sure that there's a clean source of the sand available for them for farming. We do stockpile sand on cranberry farms in Richmond, and it is a very benign use as far as, it won't affect remediation down in the future. I think that the gravel for the truck parking is a lot more unsure about remediation for that. I think it's a lot more cumbersome. And I do also agree with Councillor Day that I don't think the ALC is going to be as amenable to that. I actually appreciated Councillor Wolf pointing out that on that page that some councillors asked the applicants to put this forward, and I would believe that would be in response to trying to find a solution to this issue of truck parking. We have had trucks parked on ALR land in Richmond. Right now, one of the spots where there's trucks being parked is on a very infertile lot on Westminster Highway because it was previously stripped of all of its peat and sold on the roadside. And the word on the street is that there's actually a house that's been demolished underneath the gravel that's on that property, and it's higher than the other properties, and it's completely infertile. And then to say, you know, those people are parking illegally, but we're going to take this portion of farmland, which is actually arable, and there's a farmer farming it with a lot of challenges, I'll give. We want to move the trucks from one ALR property to another ALR property. And I don't really see how we can justify that, but I do see why some may have thought it could be a solution, but we are looking at other solutions, as Councillor Wolf said, with the street parking. There are a number of properties along River Road that have been taken out of the ALR already and that are designated for truck parking, and those are going to be coming forward one at a time. And so it's a lot less controversial, obviously, when it's not in our agricultural land reserve. Yeah, I can say that I've got farmers that I know on number 2 road that have class 2 land that they also have lost crops, and 25% crop loss because of a bad year. Things weren't planted deep enough. Or sorry, their land wasn't raised high enough, things were planted too deep or whatever, and things happen. But I agree that we do need to be supporting our farmers with infrastructure. And if the 6 road substation failure caused this crop loss, you know, we need to be looking at our infrastructure and helping to make these challenging areas more arable. My biggest concern about this is that this area, in my opinion, cannot support, not just in my opinion, in staff's opinion, cannot support the increased trucks. So we have only 2 lanes in one part of Steveston Highway that is backed up going between 6 Road and the tunnel. Whenever there's anything going on at Richmond Country Farms, and we've heard from farmers all along Sidaway that they are locked, and at certain times of the day they cannot leave their farm, they cannot get trucks to their farm. There is not a lot of infrastructure here. And when we talk about it not being a very residential area and it being a very industrial area, yes, there are industrial uses at the end of that road there. But if you look at Triangle and Williams, they are very quiet roads. They are very narrow roads. It is dark, it is quiet, it is peaceful, and there's properties all along there being farmed. And it says right in our staff report on page 200 that the road and transportation infrastructure surrounding this area is not designed for increased industrial traffic resulting from this proposal. And as a result, the review and approval of a traffic plan and assessment of transportation impacts and any necessary off-road site improvements will need to be to support increased commercial vehicle activity. That's going to be required, and it's going to be required of the proponent to put in all of this infrastructure. And I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think that it can handle 130 trucks a day. If you look at our Farming First strategy, I was the chair of the Agriculture Advisory Committee when we brought forward this new strategy. I was a big part of making this happen, and you know, we need to maintain the existing ALR boundary and not support a loss of ALR land. So by endorsing a proposal to go to the ALC for a non-farm use, it signals that we approve of this. You know, yes, we have all of these policies that we want to continue and encourage the use of ALR for farming, discourage non-farm uses, coordinate with Metro Vancouver to support the regional growth strategy, includes agriculture designations. We've got the industrial lands intensification initiative, and we've got all these reasons why this proposal goes against all of this, and to just say, yeah, but that's okay because we need the truck parking. I don't think that I can vote for that because of my involvement in creating this strategy and because of my belief that we need to not weaken our ALR boundaries by endorsing a very industrial use right adjacent to other farms. And we saw this happen with eco waste, is that it was going to be returned to agriculture, and then eventually it's, you know, extend the lease, and then the ALC just takes it out of the ALR altogether. But I do really appreciate the application. I think a lot went into it, and I think it's got a lot of merit, especially when it comes to the sand. The South Coast panel that was on in 2018, you know, Mr. Zalman was on that panel, and I believe that he knew what was best for Richmond farmland at the time, being a Richmond farmer, and I think that he was right to approve it. And I think there were a lot of politics going on at the time when the new NDP government came in at the time, and they were doing a big shakeup with the ALC, and it must have been quite a shock to have this decision be reversed. So I would like to see it go forward regardless of what the vote is tonight. If it gets forwarded, I assume there's going to be issues with the truck parking with the ALC, and that will be what it is. I can't vote in favor of it, but if it doesn't pass tonight, I would hope that the applicant would come forward with an application for just the sand, and we'll have to look at other places for truck parking.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair. Well, we did have a very good discussion at Planning Committee, and I understand completely why staff made the recommendation they did, because staff will consistently make recommendations that are in line with our existing policies and rules and regulations. So that's completely understandable. It is up to council to decide, as we do from time to time, to make a decision that is not in keeping with our own policy. And that's what we're deciding here tonight. A couple points that were important to me is that this is a Richmond-based company that's been around for about 120 years. I also noted that sand storage is a very important issue in any city, including Richmond, that there are many letters or a few letters on file from Richmond farmers that are supporting it, and has been mentioned by the delegate that about 25% of that sand actually gets used in farms. Truck parking, on the other hand, is a metro issue, and it is a problem in all cities, including Richmond. We do have a pilot program that we just entered into a couple weeks ago, and hopefully that will show some positive results. But that is not going to solve the entire issue, and it's not on Richmond's shoulders to solve the parking issue for all of Metro Vancouver. But we do have, I would suggest, a responsibility within our own city to try and address it and do our share. The other important point that I considered in deciding this, and it's not a slam dunk decision, I don't think, for anybody, is that the Food Security and Agricultural Committee, which Councillor Galander's just referenced, did support this recommendation. That was important. And ultimately, after 25 years, as been mentioned with other properties, the goal is to return it. It's not leaving the ALR if this were to go forward, but to return it actually to farmable condition, which is at considerable expense. So for those reasons, I will be supporting the planning recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
But the point, what Councillor Wolf came up and said, he said that, he's not like other councillors that support parking trucks on ALR. We don't support it, parking on ALR. And I'm really surprised by some of the comments from councillors here, because what we're trying to do is get trucks off of fertile ALR that's parked on it right now. Right now, we have several vehicles that are violating all of our bylaws with respect to that because they're parking on it, but you can't blame the owners of these trucks. They've got nowhere else to park. There is no truck being provided. When we talk about the number of street parking, it's going to be 70 trucks. That's it. I believe we have 5,500 trucks or 6,500 trucks registered here in Richmond. So I'm really concerned, and so the point I want to make is I'm not for them parking on ALR, but I'm for supporting the businesses here in Richmond, the small business owners, where it makes sense. This application absolutely makes sense, so we can have a business from 1909 here in Richmond that serves not only the farmers of Richmond, but GFL, for their green waste and mixing that sand with it, reclamating all of that. Issues that are very important to some of the councillors sitting at the table right now. So they can't have it both ways on all of this. And then we talk about, staff's opinion cannot handle the routes. If you go to page 200, read the top paragraph. It says, should council choose to endorse the LR non-farm application, refer to the ALC to review and consider it. And it talks about the fact, through these applications, a comprehensive technical review by the city will be undertaken, including, but not limited to, consideration of the following. It does not say, unless staff wants to get at this table and tell me right now they've done that comprehensive review and that area cannot sustain the trucks on that that particular area. Does staff want to do that? I'm unsure whether that is a foregone conclusion or not.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, at this point in time, there has been no technical analysis undertaken, so it is difficult for me to say yes or no in terms of a response to that question. All I can say is, as per the staff report, should council choose to endorse this and the ALC approve it as part of the rezoning application, a traffic impact analysis will be required, will be reviewed by city staff, and then any required improvements would be secured thereof.
Yes, and Mr. Rees, that would include several other things, not just the traffic thing, correct?
Through your worship, that's correct.
Correct. Thank you very much.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you, worship. This is obviously a little bit controversial. I don't think anybody wants to park commercial vehicles on agricultural land. Obviously, if we are going to do it, we want to put it on our least arable land. We do have a lot of commercial vehicles registered in Richmond. There's probably about 5,000 registered in Richmond. A vast majority of those are, though, with Canada Post, UPS, FedEx. So those aren't the trucks we're looking at parking. The trucks we're looking at parking are the ones that are serving the port, moving our food, our clothes in and out, and moving them around. So if we can have affordable parking for our trucks, then we have more affordable goods at the end of the day. We also want to keep those trucks off of good farmland. Obviously, staff gave us an answer that's in line with policy, and it's up to us to make our decision accordingly. I appreciate that the applicant is putting farmland in another town into the agricultural land reserve so that we know that there will be farmland for future generations and food for future generations. My preference would be, however, that the increases to agricultural viability would happen in Richmond. So whether or not there's actually more or less land happening in the ALR, there's 4 million acres in BC in the ALR, but increasing viability in Richmond would be my preference. I am, however, willing to support the application as it sits. I think it's a good application. I think, we can live with it either way because it's still supporting agriculture. Thank you.
All right, just before we call the question, I'm going to ask Councillor Day, you said you wanted to split it up. If you want to make the application only about the storage of sand, I think that the amendment you would propose is to delete the words "and commercial vehicle truck parking." Is that what you're wanting to do?
I think there needs to be an A and a B, one for the sand lot and one for the truck parking.
No.
I would like to see this pass at ALC, not fail.
If you want an amendment, that's what it should be. Take out "and commercial vehicle truck parking."
I would move that.
All right, is that seconded?
Second.
All right. This is on the amendment. I think we've beaten this to death, so probably short remarks would be in order.
If we remove the and commercial vehicle truck parking from our recommendation that we're voting on, it doesn't change their application, but it changes what we are endorsing.
It would change if we don't approve this, it doesn't go anywhere. So therefore, we would be approving the storage of sand, but not commercial truck parking. That's what it would be. Okay, Councillor Day.
Yep, so if we do it that way, there's a good chance it'll be approved because we know there's problems with that eastern portion of the land anyhow. We've heard over and over and over again how important sand is to agriculture, how important it is to eco-waste, how important it is to GFC. We need to make sure this application goes through. It's absolutely critically important. And keep in mind that this isn't going to make a darn bit of difference to the applicant because they're only getting $1 a year for that land, and then another operator is going to come in and create the truck parking. So they're still going to get what they need. They've been in business for like 100 years. I want to keep them in business. I want to keep them in that location. And I feel that if we put this forward the way as written, it will fail in the ALC. It's happened before, and I think it'll happen again. So I think if we want to talk about commercial truck parking, it has to be separate from the sand lot.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. I was also originally worried that the ALC might throw it out based on the truck parking, but after having listened to the applicant and their consultant, they seem to know what they're putting forward and they're confident with their application, so I'm willing to support it the way it sits. Thank you.
That's my thinking as well, is that the ALC can approve or, they can approve it all, they can approve part of it, whatever. So if that makes a difference to them, they can approve the stand and not the commercial truck parking. So with that, this is on the amendment to delete the words "and commercial vehicle truck parking." That's all we're talking about right now. On that point, all those in favor of that deletion? Okay, and those opposed? All right, so that is defeated. Councillors Al, McNulty, Liu, Hobbs, Heed, and the mayor opposed. And so we're going to call the question on the planning recommendation, which is on the floor. All those in favor? Those opposed? So that is carried with the same parties. Wolf, Day, Galanders opposed to that. Brings us to public announcements and events. First of all, we've got a road naming. The name Minns Road has been selected for the proposed new road in the Oval Village area. Then we have a number of events or strategies. First of all, we've drafted a new 10-year social development strategy to help guide the city and its partners in meeting the community's social needs. Residents and community partners are invited to connect with staff and share feedback that will help shape Richmond's social priorities for the next decade. So if you want details of that, go to letstalkrichmond.ca. Then we have Halloween festivities. Richmond is hosting more than 20 Halloween-inspired events and programs this month. One of the most popular is called Halloween Hoot at the Richmond Nature Park, and that runs daily until October 29th. So if you want a full list of the Halloween activities right across the city, visit richmond.ca/Halloween. Then we have Diwali. Monday, October 20th marks Diwali, the Festival of Lights, which is celebrated in many traditions across the South Asian communities. The Richmond Museum is offering a Diwali take-home activity kit for residents to enjoy. So if you want more information on that, go to the Richmond Museum website. And finally, the public hearing set for October 20th has been canceled due to the ongoing Canada Post strike. The October 20th public hearing has been canceled due to the inability to send out statutory notices for items proceeding to the public hearing. So the next scheduled public hearing is Monday, November 17th, 2025. So Madam Clerk, bylaws for adoption.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 3 bylaws for final adoption with no noted opposition.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. And the development permit panel.
There are 2 recommendations for council. First, that the chair's report for the development permit panel meeting held on October 9th, 2024 be received for information. And number 2, that the recommendation of the panel to authorize the issuance of development permit for the properties at 5800, 5840, and 5860 Granville Avenue be endorsed and the permit so issued.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So then we'll have a motion to resolve in the committee of the whole to hear delegations on non-agenda items. All those in favor, opposed, carried. We have 2 such delegations. First of all, we'll call forward Mary Ann Istinger to delegate on maintenance and upkeep of city-owned trees on Fairfax Crescent and Seafair Drive in Richmond. So please have a seat.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself, and the time limit is 5 minutes.
Well.
And by the way, I think this is your presentation. We all have that,
Okay.
so you can refer to it or whatever.
Mayor Brody and officers of Richmond Council, thank you very much for allowing us to make our presentation. My name's Marianne Eisinger. I'm a resident of Richmond for 23 years, living at 8711 Fairfax Crescent. I'm also here with my friend and neighbor. I'm making this presentation not only for myself, but on behalf of my neighbors, and many of which are sitting behind me tonight. The neighborhood of Seafair is arguably one of the most beautiful neighborhoods in Richmond, and for the most part, all of us are long-term residents in the area. The residents of Seafair live in this area for a number of reasons: the proximity to the West Dyke Trail, neighborhood relationships, care of the properties, safety, and general aesthetics of the neighborhood. Which brings me to my topic of conversation tonight. In the Seafair neighborhood specifically, but elsewhere in Richmond, we enjoy and value the beauty and importance of our urban canopy. The mature trees found in our neighborhood, some of which are over 40 and 50, 60 years old. This canopy in our urban setting provides us with character to the neighborhoods, shade in the summer months, air filtration, reducing the carbon footprint. This canopy also provides a vital habitat for wildlife. However, as with anything, maintenance is critical to ensure the long-term enjoyment and benefit. Maintenance applies to property, vehicles, structures, etc., and in this case, the trees of Seafair. Maintenance is critical. In preparation of this presentation, I've spoken to all of our neighbors who have all shared with me the following concerns. Phoning City Hall repeatedly, requesting for city trees to be cared for, with little, if any, action being taken on the part of City Hall. The general impression is that City Hall simply ignores the phone calls and therefore nothing happens to address the residents' concerns. The issues that are commonplace in the neighborhood include, but not limited to, falling debris, large branches, dead branches in trees, and with any sort of wind event, these easily break off and fall. These falling branches present significant hazards to pedestrians' well-being, cyclists, and property damage. Some events that have occurred due to lack of tree maintenance include dents in vehicles, mine and others, from falling debris, the roof of a motorhome damaged from falling branches, creating a hole in the roof, causing interior damage with water ingress. Roof and drainage damage to homes as a result of falling branches and excessive debris. In one extreme case, a tree actually fell on a person's vehicle, thereby destroying the vehicle. Overgrown tree branches overhanging the house easily allows for infestation of rodents to the home. Tripping hazards presented by leaving stumps in the ground after a tree has been cut down. And finally, a general decline of the neighborhood aesthetic and weakening of the tree's structure and overall health in general. As with any ownership, there is a responsibility attached to that ownership, as in the responsibility of property damage. If I had a tree on my property and the city were to advise me that the tree was presenting a risk to persons or personal property, and I chose to ignore my responsibility to care and maintain that tree, the tree were to fall and cause damage to another person's property, then that responsibility falls 100% to me. As I've been notified of the risks taken, and chose not to take action to remedy those risks. From our viewpoint, there's no difference in the case of the city trees. We are not permitted to prune the trees, even though they're encroaching on our property and causing damage to the property and presenting a risk to persons enjoying the public areas, such as the streets and sidewalks, and City Hall has been notified, but done nothing. Our complaints have been brought forward over the years to City Hall and have essentially been ignored, not for years, but for decades. In my case, I've had one person come out in 23 years. We're suggesting that the trees simply be maintained on a regular basis. Maintenance prevents avoidable emergency costs associated with damage. Regular maintenance ensures healthier trees, allowing them to withstand drought, pests, and severe weather events. From our standpoint, there's a matter of public trust. The maintenance of the trees demonstrates the stewardship of the public areas and infrastructure.
Ma'am, you're out of time. I'm going to ask you to finish it up.
We've done a great deal of research. We've found that approximately 25% of the tree can be pruned, trees of this age can be pruned, brought back without causing any damage. We're suggesting 3 to 5 years maintenance program, a maintenance program put in place. Your tree arborists come out on an annual basis, at least, to maintain the trees, and to do entire sections like the Seafair neighborhood, as opposed to coming out with a whole team of people cutting one branch and leaving. It doesn't make any sense. Just go in and do a block and schedule it.
Please finish.
I'm done.
Thank you very much. My suggestion is we simply refer this to staff and ask them to investigate the situation and report back through committee. That's moved and seconded. Okay, we'll have a few questions here. Councillor Wolf.
Thanks. 2 questions. First off, you have done a lot of research. Have you also looked through the city's strategies on tree retention, both through parks as well as public works? I think that's also been a challenge from the public side of you because you don't see where a tree falls.
Please?
So have you looked into the tree strategies that the city has from both angles, public works and parks?
Yeah, I have tried, and but from our viewpoint, and pardon me if I sound frustrated, but I am. We're taxpayers. We all are taxpayers. We all have a collective interest in maintaining our city, maintaining our trees. If our strategy is fine, but I suggest to you, perhaps we don't have enough resources applied to the management of the trees, all of them. And it's just not Seafair. There's a number of areas with these beautiful mature
Ma'am,
trees.
you were just asked a question whether you've looked at the strategy.
Yes, I have.
You've said no. Or
yes, I have.
You have looked at it.
But not in depth.
And your second
My second
question
question, there was a co-presenter delegate. I just wonder if you would want to introduce yourself and agree to the comments that were made?
No, you can introduce yourself. You've had your 5 minutes and then some.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm a resident of this street since
Sir,
1992.
what is your name?
My name is James Kennedy, and I've been a long-term resident, and I can tell you a story about the times that I've called and how many times I've called to get this addressed.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, through you to the delegation. Thank you very much for bringing this forward. I just have a quick question about the last page of the.
Oh, yeah.
This is, so why did you include those? No, I just want to know what it is. They were removed?
All right, if you don't mind. So.
No. Go to the microphone.
I can, all right, it's okay.
So there's one photograph of a tree stump, and what's been happening is a tree has failed or is diseased, whatever the reason, it's been cut down. And just a stump is left there. Now, our neighborhood, the lighting isn't great because of the canopy of the trees. And I tell you, I have tripped over that thing at night walking my dogs. It's a tripping hazard.
Thank you.
And then the other one was?
Same thing. It's just the stumps, 2 stumps, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, 2 stumps. And I thought you were talking.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering about the stumps. So just to bring it to staff's attention, because we are going to refer it to staff. So it's not just the tree pruning, but it sounds like the stumps are also a tripping hazard. And
if you're going to cut down a tree,
maybe they would like those removed.
Councillor McNulty.
I'll be very specific, Mrs. Essinger. Thank you very much for coming forward, and James coming forward. Obviously, Your Worship, I'd like to add to the referral that there be communication with somebody in the community that knows what the issues are and dealing with that. And that was my direct question to you, Mrs. Essinger.
just a
Would you
minute.
be the spokesperson for your community?
I mean, she will be the spokesperson. That's who staff will contact.
You didn't say it in the resolution, so before we get going, I suggest within the next 10 days that staff make contact with them as opposed to 3 decades of non-contact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
the staff have the direction. Councillor Day.
Hi, yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. So a couple questions. So the trees that are the problem are all on city land, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, on the boulevards, okay. The trees that are on city land, were they planted by the city or by the owners of the property?
City.
They planted the trees?
Yes, and it's my understanding that at the time of the homes being built, the homeowners at the time were offered by the city that they would be able to, if they wanted a tree, they could have one, and I think the cost was about $75. Not sure about that. In my case, the owners said yes, and I ended up with 3 trees, 1 on Seafair and 2 on Fairfax. And
So this
Ma'am,
was,
I think you've answered the question.
so, but you're saying the city planted them, but wasn't it the developer that planted them?
no, it was city.
The city, okay, good. And then if the rules were amended so that, because this is going to be referred to staff, right? So let's say the city came forward and said, okay, anything that's hanging over your property line, go for it. Cut whatever you need to cut. Would that be a part of a solution?
Providing the fact that the tree is preserved and kept safe. If I can, just a wee minute, I had an arborist out from the city, his name was Sam.
Ma'am, no, please. You've made your presentation.
Okay.
You were asked a question.
She's answering my
Okay.
question, Mayor Brody. I'm asking if it's good enough that they could just trim the trees over their property line.
Providing in my view, providing the fact that the tree is protected and preserved.
So not just stop one
No,
side.
no.
Okay, I get you.
I
Thank you.
think, because they're overhanging the roads, you can't park in front of your house.
All right, thank you. We'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So staff will be in touch with you, and we'll investigate the situation and see where we go from there. They'll be reporting back through committee. Thank you. The other delegation is Jerome Dickey to delegate on low voter turnout. So please, you know the drill. As a council candidate, you know the drill. You've got 5 minutes. You introduce yourself and tell us what's on your mind.
Jerome Dickey, 9280 Glen Ellen Drive, Richmond. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to address this important issue this evening. I want to begin by acknowledging the considerable effort and that went into planning, preparing, and delivering the 2022 municipal election here in Richmond by staff, because I know there's a lot of work involved in it. Elections are a cornerstone of our democracy, and the administrative work behind them deserves recognition for that. With the next municipal election 1 year and 3 days away, what has changed? We must confront a troubling fact. Voter turnout in that election was only 24.4%. Approximately 35,093 ballots were cast out of a population of around 230,000 in Richmond, a number that should concern all of us. While this may not be the lowest turnout in municipal history, it continues a disturbing trend of civic disengagement. The International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance puts it plainly. Higher voter turnout is in most cases a sign of the vitality of democracy, while lower turnout is usually associated with voter apathy and mistrust of the political process. If nearly 3/4 of eligible Richmond voters stayed home, we need to ask why. The first step is research. I'm calling on City Council to initiate a comprehensive survey of Richmond residents, voters and non-voters alike, to gather facts and insights into what's really driving this low engagement. Are people feeling disconnected, mistrustful, or are they simply choosing other forms of participation like advocacy, protests, or online platforms? Once we have the data, we'll be in a stronger position to act. But we can't stop there. I'm also proposing the creation of a Richmond Citizens Assembly, a structured representative group of everyday residents, randomly selected and demographically diverse, brought together to deliberate on the civic issue and advise council. Citizens' assemblies are increasingly being used in Canada to bring people back into the democratic process and rebuild public trust. In 2003, British Columbia launched a Citizens' Assembly to propose replacing the province's existing first past the post system with BCS TV, single transferable vote. A lot of you may be familiar with that. It's quite publicized. Within 15 months, it provided a final report to the BC legislature. So some success. In June 2013, the City of Vancouver had 48 members of the committee in a Citizens' Assembly work together over 9 months to form the Grandview Woodland Community Plan. Langley City Council have a Citizens' Assembly on community safety completing this month after being launched in February. Richmond already has many advisory committees on transportation, seniors, agriculture, and the environment, and rightly so. But why not a committee dedicated to democracy itself? A Citizens' Assembly gives people a real seat at the table and a meaningful way to contribute beyond election day. You may be asking what makes a Citizens' Assembly unique? Well, a Citizens' Assembly is not another consultation. It's a democratic innovation that combines representation, learning, deliberation, and shared decision-making. It gives residents the time, information, and trust to think together about the city's future. And it gives council richer insight than any poll or hearing could provide you. It's representative, not self-selected. It's deliberative, not just consultative. It's empowered with a clear mandate. It builds public trust and legitimacy. It's educational and capacity building. It produces actionable, evidence-based results. This is a moment for leadership. City Council's a role in turning the tide of low turnout. Let's explore new democratic tools to give people more voice and more reason to engage. It's time to say yes to new approaches. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. We appear to have a question from Councillor Day.
Thank you so much for that. You know, I'm very disappointed with our voter turnout, especially the last election, 24.4%. It's dismal. In Vancouver and Langley, is the Citizens' Assembly like a permanent sort of advisory body, or is it more to get the voters out, get things changed, and then they would be dissolved?
Yeah, Citizen Assemblies are never permanent. They are put together for a period of time for a specific purpose.
Okay, that's good. And I like the idea of a survey. Did you find during your research that there was a general lack of knowledge about what the various levels of government do, i.e. city, provincial, and federal?
Well, I think certainly that's out there. A lot of people don't understand what different levels of government do. But I think there's a lot of governments that are doing things to improve voter turnout too. A good example is Markham, Ontario, where they went to online voting. Is a big part now. Their online voting actually represents 93% of the vote now. Now, their turnout is over the last few elections, it's in the high 90s as far as the online voting. The turnout overall is between 30 and 40%, which still is not great, but it's a lot better than what we've currently got. Again, I'm not suggesting that's the only solution. It's up to a Citizens' Assembly to come up with the broad solutions. This is a very complex issue, and it requires a multitude of approaches, not one.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Just my last question is, with no longer having a Richmond newspaper. We just have the online Richmond News. And with social media taking off in, crazy ways, and there's so much misinformation out there, do you think that that is part of the reason you made this presentation today, to try to change the tide?
Well, yeah, making this because we've got to do something different. We can sit back and just say, well, that's the way it is and go with it. But there's actually things you can do. And what Richmond does through a citizens assembly, having things specific to Richmond, it may be different than what other communities need. So as far as online, what happens is you do get more division. If Richmond's talking about harmony, it's important to lean into that harmony by getting voters to come out and vote, because otherwise you end up with more divisive elements out there that are organizing.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to rise and report? I'm sorry?
I'd be interested in referring the presentation to staff. We got a memo from our clerk about the election, and the voter turnout was down in 2022 from 2018 in many municipalities. But if you look at New Westminster, it only went down by 1%. West Vancouver only went down by 2%. In the large municipalities, this is on page 2 of the memo we got, Surrey, Langley, and Vancouver all stayed much flatter, like 33 to 32. They had a mayoral race, as was pointed out. Langley 30 to 26, and Vancouver 39, only down to 32.
Okay, so you want to refer it to staff?
Yeah, like what makes us different from those municipalities? Maybe there could be an analysis done, and also a cost estimate of what it would take to do a survey of why turnout's low in Richmond.
So that's your referral motion?
Yes.
Is it seconded? Councillor Day.
Yeah, I love that idea, because as I was reading the report by our city clerk, I mean, it's pretty easy to, it says right in here that with all the work that was done with, sending out a mail out to each voter's guide and a candidate profile guide and mail ballots. We had, I think, 30 voting places. I mean, a lot of effort was made by our staff, and they seemed dismayed that we didn't get better numbers. So given that this has got to be frustrating for our staff, I think, and it's certainly frustrating for me as a Richmond City Councillor, I think we owe it to the community to find out why it's so low and see if there isn't something we can do to fix it.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. I don't know that we need to do a survey. I'm sure if anyone wants to do a poll, they're welcome to do such a thing with their own dime. I do know that Councillor McNulty and I did go door-to-door knocking on people's doors, encouraging them to vote. I think many of my colleagues also, and we will be doing the same this year to encourage everyone to get out and vote. So I think there's multiple avenues to get people to vote. Sometimes you think that people are content with how things are being run, and when they're not content, that's when they come out to vote.
All right, we're going to call a question. All those who are in favor of a referral? Those opposed? That is defeated with Councillor Al McNulty, Liu, Hobbs, Heed, and the mayor opposed. May I have a motion to rise and report?
So moved.
All those in favor, opposed, carried. Okay, we're now adjourned.